Good evening. My name is Jose Alfaro, and my informative topic is about the blood donation process. And basically, I'm going to give a brief overview of just the stick when you get stuck in the arm to get your blood run, to overall transfusion process to when a patient actually receives a unit of transferable blood. And basically, when people donate blood, no one really understands the process it goes through. A nice little tip or figure I learned is essentially 10 to 20 personnel at work with that single unit. So it's gone through a collection of different processes from inside the donation center to being processed in the lab to being shipped off to the actual hospitals and the physicians' offices for transfusion. So the initial first step, as you would call it, is the actual blood donation. Basically, you give a health assessment, a physical, and a couple questionnaires about your overall health well-being, and you're donating. Basically, you get stuck, and the machine uh, automatically filters out the components that are needed for red blood cells and or whole blood, depending on the donation process. So typically, that involves a questionnaire and a physical, and then the actual staking of the donor. Followed by that is the actual process of testing. Once it's your first time donating, you give samples that are for screening for infectious disease, blood type, and other special testing requested by the physician depending on the donation. So typically, this is the process I'm an expert in. Essentially, I've worked in this type of testing for one blood. Essentially, anytime you send any donations, at least a couple personnel have tested a magnitude of arousal tests you know, involving infectious diseases for HIV, syphilis, and so on. But the main critical point is blood testing. So we do cross matching to provide the actual, you know, information needed so the blood is a safe unit for the patient. Following that process of testing is typically the manufacturing division. This is the next, pretty much essentially the final step. Essentially, the unit is prepared for donation and it is separated into the essential components that the lab specializes in, either plasma, cells, or platelets, depending on the actual, lab if they're capable of doing all three. Basically, once whole blood is donated, it's separated to the essential components that are being broke down to make the donation units that go to the hospitals. And basically, once we get a confirmation from the hospital that, hey, this patient is AB negative or so on and so forth, we go ahead and cross-match that with all records. Essentially, the biggest concern in blood donation is that a suitable candidate for donation? Because the last thing you want to have is a mismatch of cross-matching. And basically, at that point, the donation process has been double checked, triple checked, essentially cross marked with all kinds of regulatory offices and processes that the patient should have a safe and healthy transfusion process. Thank you.